The Prophecies of Paracelsus, Magic Figures and Prophecies made by Theophrastus Paracelsus about 400 years ago, written by Eliphas Levi. Translated by J.K. William Ryder Son. London. 1915. The Predictions. Given in 32 Stories and Figures. Introduction. The Prophecies of Paracelsus attracted my attention at an early stage of my studies in the occult, which has now extended to over 40 years, but I have only recently thought of bringing them to public notice, because this is speaking about the extraordinary events of the present time, and is acting as an incentive to prepare. The famous French Kabbalist, Alphonse Louis Constant, in The Key of the Great Mysteries, on page 378, he wrote the Prophecy of Paracelsus, that we give the preface of is composed of 32 ideas with allegorical stories and lessons. And it is the most astounding monument and indisputable proof of the reality and existence of the gift of natural prophecy. Abbé Constant, born 1809, died 1875, better known by his Hebraistic pseudonym, Eliphas Levi Forehead, who was a distinguished adept, magus, and writer on the occult. Most of his works have been translated by Mr. A. E. Waite. The preface that Eliphas Levi refers to is not given here but will be found preceding the predictions. The Prophecies of Paracelsus by Eliphas Levi then continues. Following this preface there commences a series of stories about symbols and lessons to learn from. The first represents two millstones, who are the two powers of the state, the people and the aristocracy, but the people's stone is crossed by a serpent holding a bundle of birch rods in its jaws, and a hand armed with a sword that comes out of a cloud and seems to direct the serpent, which overthrows the millstone and causes it to fall on the other. The second figure represents a dead tree, the fruits of which are lily flowers, and the text announces the exile of the family of whom the lily flower is the emblem of. Farther on, the millstone, representing the people, falls on a crown and breaks it. Farther on still, a bishop is shown immersed in water and surrounded by spears that prevent him from reaching the bank. In the text it says, "You have come out of your bounds, now you demand the earth, but it will not be surrendered to you." The German text is slightly different. Then it can be seen that an eagle is hovering over the Bosphorus, where the Sultan appears to be drowning. And because this eagle does not have two heads and is not black, then Eliphas Levi considers that this excludes Russia and Austria. The great French Kabbalist then concludes it would perhaps not be prudent at present to publish the remainder. Curious people can consult the Latin book printed with the title The Prophecy of the Excellent Dr. Theophrastus Paracelsus, which should be found in the National Libraries. We possess two copies, one in manuscript and the other photographed after a copy printed in the 16th century. Then, as far as Eliphas Levi was concerned, in 1861, and this is the year of 1915, that was only 54 years ago. Now the world is in the throes of a great European war. There is no reason why these pregnant prophecies should any more be kept secret, and every reason why they should be widely known. Great changes in the world are before us, both in religion and politics. Considering the importance of the present critical time of a clearer outlook, this glimpse into the future is coming from the past that may not be inconvenient, and the present publication of the predictions of Paracelsus may assist and interest both, from a religious and political point of view, all who are concerned about the world's progress. It may also serve to aid the reader to get better acquainted with the great adept of the Renaissance, especially when his own quaint words on past, present, and future are reproduced. Concerning Paracelsus, Theophrastus Born-Based von Hohenheim, commonly known as Paracelsus, the famous Swiss physician, alchemist and occultist of the 16th century, who was born on the November 10, 1493, at Saarbrück, near Einsiedeln, Canton Schwyz, and died on the September 24, 1541, at Salzburg. Contemporary with Charles V, Luther, Erasmus, and Cornelius Agrippa, but Paracelsus stands out as an extraordinary character that has been for a long time misunderstood by the majority of the learned and unlearned alike. Living in the age of the Reformation, siding neither with Catholic nor Protestant, he distinguished himself as a freelance in medical science and occult philosophy, and would have been known as a mystic had his religious writings not been so carefully suppressed as to be altogether forgotten. Paracelsus then claims our attention as alchemist, physician, occultist, mystic, astrologer, and lastly as prophet, and it is in this last capacity that we will regard him, as we are about to study, and thereby rescue from oblivion those at one time famous predictions, of which some have been remarkably accomplished, while others may be considered to be still in actual course of fulfillment. Concerning the life of this remarkable man, we are informed that his first teacher was his father, the learned Wilhelm Bornbeest von Hohenheim, a physician, who took pains to instruct him in all the learning of the time, especially in medicine. At the age of 16, young Bornbeest entered the University of Basel. But he soon abandoned academic studies, preferring the mystic and occult teachings of the famous adept, Johannes Trithemius, an abbot of Spanheim, a noted alchemist, and divine, whose ideas he absorbed. However, he soon forsook the abbot, as he had previously forsaken the university culture, to study metallurgic chemistry in the mines that was then owned by the Fuggers in Tyrol. It is not my intention to give a description of the life of Paracelsus, and as such an excellent account appears of him in the 11th edition of the Encyclopaedia Britannica. Fuller biographical details are given in the Life of Paracelsus, by Dr. Edward Bedeau, MRCS, that is in the Life and Teachings of Paracelsus, by Franz Hartmann, MD, and in the Life of Paracelsus by Anne M. Stoddart. Those who read German will find some interesting details in the little volume, Theophrastus Paracelsus, His Life and His Personality, by Franz Strunz. I must, however, differ from the last-named author, who would claim Paracelsus for the pantheon of German fame and would endeavor to prove that he was a German. He was not. Paracelsus, although he preferred to lecture and write in German, he was all his life, heart, soul and backbone, a Swiss. This in passing. Paracelsus, in his book on the Great Surgery Book, he volunteers concerning himself the following information: from childhood upward I have followed these studies and have received instruction from those experienced in adept philosophy. He then mentions his principal teachers. First, Wilhelm von Hohenheim, and my father, who never failed me. I studied the writings of the ancients and modernists, and I have had a number of teachers I can hardly name. Some of them took great trouble with me, such as the bishops of Stettgach, of Levantor, and of Ypern, who was the abbot of Spanheim, and further, Sigmund Fugger von Schwarz, and many workers in his laboratory. Fugger may have largely influenced his mind in alchemy, but in the recently unearthed theological writings of Paracelsus, that was mentioned by Professor Karl Sudoff in his learned work Attempt at a Critique of the Authenticity of the Paracelsian Writings. Also the volumes, in Berlin, from 18,941,899, we find a clear indication that he derived his prophetic gift from that source of all prophecy, from the mystic illumination. Paracelsus assumed that name when he began to teach, to indicate his superiority to Celsus, who was for all his numerous instructors, and to a great extent, like all adepts, self-taught, and soul-inspired. A mystic leading a sexless life, and he had glimpses of cosmic consciousness and divine illumination, far transcending the knowledge of his time, and while under such inspiration, that secret spring of all genius and prophecy, he wrote and said more than he knew in his mortal mind. Searching for knowledge and truth, traveling through various countries, practicing and teaching a system of empirical medicine that we will not discuss here, but he got in touch with life in all its phases, and was in a state of mind that was most favorable to the attainment of that Kabbalistic state of cosmic consciousness and divine illumination, which shines forth throughout his luminous writings. Famous, yet hated and persecuted by unprogressive contemporaries, who was misunderstood by the unenlightened of the following centuries, but posterity has at last vindicated the fame and character of this hero of occult science. Professor Strunz observes of Paracelsus his was a mind of mighty features whose rare maturity converted the stating of scientific problems into warm human terms, and we owe to him the realization of a cultured human community based on Christian and humanitarian holiness and faith, which things we may well regard as the basis of his teaching concerning both the physical and the spiritual. His restless life never robbed him of that witchery which forever and again flushed the immortal impulses of his soul like golden sunshine, and to that vision which belongs to the great nature poet. And yet few men of his time recognized, as he did, the incalculable result to be attained by the empiric inductive method. Paracelsus felt like an artist and thought like a mathematician, just as he combined the laws of nature with the laws of the microcosm, that is of man with his consciousness, his feelings, and his desires. It was this delicate artistic sense that proved to be the daring bridge from the man Paracelsus to the keen-visioned observer of reality, a wondrous overpass that is resting on the travels of the new humanity, and of the Renaissance. Because on this overpass moves forward the reconstruction of the universe of which Paracelsus was one of the greatest architects. The poet Robert Browning made Paracelsus the subject of one of his finest poems, by describing him as an idealist and student of nature's mysteries. Professor Dowden, in his biography Robert Browning, explains the poem Paracelsus as follows: the poem is the history of a great spirit, who has sought high and low for the unattainable ends, who has fallen on the way and is bruised and broken, but who rises at the close, above his ruined self, and his rings speak out of the defeat of a pledge of ultimate victory. Paracelsus as presented in the poem is a man of preeminent genius, passionate intellect, and excessive intellectual ambition. But if it is meant that he should be the type of the modern man of science, then Browning has missed his mark, for Paracelsus is in fact as much the poet as the man of science. Paracelsus is a great revolutionary spirit in an epoch of intellectual revolution, and it is as much his task to destroy as it is to build up, and he has been broken with the past, and gazes with wild-eyed hopes into the future, expecting the era of intellectual liberty to dawn suddenly with the year one, and seeing himself the protagonist of a revolution. Such men as Paracelsus, whether their sphere is in the political, the religious, or the intellectual world, they are men of faith, with a task that has been laid on each of them, that is a summons, a divine mandate, that has been heard. But it is the mandate indeed of the divine? Very nobly has Browning represented the overmastering force of that faith, which genius has in itself, and which indeed is needed in the struggle with an incredulous or indifferent world. On the Prophecies of Paracelsus. The world, as the Eddas say, is ruled by three fates: the past, the present, and the future. The present rests on the past and proceeds from it, but the future is from the present. And it is the future that holds the ideal to which the world moves, and therefore it is she who conditions both the present and the past. And the three are inextricably one. H. Fielding Hall says it is the world's soul. There is not the slightest doubt that if the present is the result of the past, and the future will be the result of the present. By the three being one, the future should be as easily read as the past. But this can only be done when the finite mind of the seer becomes one with the infinite mind of the seen, by a manifestation of the soul, which is the creator, and the source of all truth. The prophecies of Paracelsus are set forth in 32 magical or allegorical stories with predictions to each one, a preface and an epilogue or ending written by Paracelsus. The entire work evidently relates to predictions of mundane events, and some relate to ecclesiastical affairs, others to social and political upheavals and the changes that has since happened, that are actually becoming accomplished or may still come to pass. The predictions are apparently limited to 24 to 42 years, and both numbers are given from 1530, that is about the time they appeared, and was possibly intended to mean mystic occult years, meaning either the fullness of time, or 240 years or 420 years, and in latter terms it would include the affairs of the present critical time. Whoever studies these predictions cannot fail to see how worldly affairs have followed the course that Paracelsus foretold for them, whether by mystic inspiration or astrological calculation. Concerning the time when certain predictions should come to pass, there is an eminent seer of the Middle Ages, who is the hermit Johannes Lichtenberger, who correctly observed, although Almighty God alone has retained the time and hour in his power, and he alone knows and figures things out, and although there is no one in this world who can predict anything with certainty for tomorrow, or for some days to come, nevertheless the same merciful deity, of his overflowing love, has poured various gifts onto his creatures, whereby at things that are still distant and in the future, he allows us to understand and know, not wholly, but in divers parables, symbols, and by comparisons of things already happened with those that are to take place in the future. These predictions were at their first publications in great demand and was often reprinted. Professor Sudoff mentions numerous editions and reprints, but they would have altogether fallen into oblivion if not for the noted Kabbalist, Eliphas Levi, who drew attention to them by counseling their suppression. True initiates are forever on the side of the law and order and maintains that the secrets of the occult should remain occult secrets. But these are times when the old order changes and what has been kept occult or hidden must become manifested and seen. Then the time has arrived for making known what has been kept in concealment or has lapsed into oblivion for centuries, because as Paracelsus quaintly observes, when the time comes then comes also, what the time has come to need. Because in that extremely rare, suppressed, occult book, that is a suggestive inquiry into the Hermetic mystery, that occurs from the remarkable observation of how many prophecies there are of times to come, and of those days that are even said to be at hand, when the fourth monarchy, which is the intellectual reign of truth and peace, that will predominate, when the mother of sciences comes forth, and greater things are discovered that have been here in the past monarchies of the world. But we do not linger about these matters, because the revelation of all things is always at hand for him who knows how to investigate, but the rest of the world will always be far behind. If truly there is minds prepared, and if the great era approaches more rapidly than time has given us yet, even in faith to be able to foresee, and notwithstanding so many signs that are appearing, and all the signals of rumors about a coming change. Yet they are fewer and far between and more rare yearly, that indicates the progression of truth, but if we may say, a better age is approaching, which at some period of time it must come, when abundance of all things by an equitable distribution of all, will help to break down the competitive barrier of society, and will introduce a cooperative alliance among mankind, then this incentive to inquire may not be inopportunely offered in the self-discovery of truth. Curiously enough, Paracelsus also connects the establishment of the fourth monarchy or millennium with a rediscovery of alchemy and a universal knowledge of the secret of transmutation of metals. Then the old art will flourish, and no thought is given to the new. And will the pearl that is so long lost but will be found by a humble one that will be set, as a jewel, in gold, etc. What would the world be like if gold had to be demonetized on account of its being as common as lead? But I must leave this to the reader's imagination. The idea of the millennium may also have served as an occult allegory for the regeneration of man, as every reborn soul lives even now in the millennium, that is the fourth or fifth monarchy, or the rule of Christ. The attainment of the individual person to the divine mystic state of illumination would in no way impede, but rather hasten, the realization of the Father's kingdom on earth. Paracelsus calls the power that rules the world's fate, magic. The Creator rules the world by magic. Because he is the great divine magician creating and sustaining the all by his omnipotent word, or command. Man, too, has the sole power of magic, but it extends no further than the potency of his trained will and the reality of his thought. The Creator's will being omnipotent, but man's will is only potent in as far as it is in unison with the Creator's. But man by his selfishness limits and restricts his power and separates himself from the eternal selflessness, who is the I Am. If man were to enter the plane of the divine selflessness, his power for good would increase in proportion to his attunement with the Father's will. But clouded by ignorance and surrounded by sin, that has become his lower nature, man's mind knows nothing of the reality of the eternal mind nor of its mastery over fate. Man, as he now is, has depraved senses but no real thought. He is only the creature of a day, and perishes like the beasts he devours, having fallen from providence to fate. Who can tell the extent of the faculties man possesses when he is in his rightful state, that is the immortal mind? Who can even willingly foreshadow the vast latent power in his eternal being? Can the Son of the Infinite be finite? Is it not more probable that he too has faculties for infinite development? Why should the future not be known to us just as the past? The soul knows all things, because the soul is the eternal mind. The self-inflicted eclipse of the soul will not last forever. Sin is the result of ignorance and ignorance is the cause of sin. Where true knowledge flourishes, sin dies and man becomes a regenerated being. Let us therefore endeavor to understand the ever-presence of the Creator in the world and in nature. Wherever we rightly search nature's phenomena, we can search from manifestation to cause, from cause to thought, from thought to law, and from law to love. Nature, when rightly understood, will be seen to act on the principles of thought that we can follow, and then we can see and feel that we can love and that loves us. By nature, we mean the creative life in nature. Man should not be subject to fate, as he now is, but he should be a divine being who should be guarded by divine intervention of the divine mind. If we could only realize that we are immortal beings, how differently we could live. Then let us endeavor to get to know about ourselves and to understand the ever-presence of the Creator in nature. In the underlying phenomena of nature there is an essence, and the underlying nature there is nature's God, who is the Creator. Who is sustaining matter, because this is the all-pervading spirit. The universe is not void, because the universe is full of ether that holds all things in its solution. Wherever we can follow the Creator's footsteps in nature and in history, that is where we will find revelations of divine thought. Nature's law is animated by divine thought. He, the Creator, and is united to us as the Spirit of life, who is the All-Soul, and the All-Life. And our soul, and our life is a part of His. We are the Creator's offspring, but we can only become children of the Father's kingdom by an act of the mystic self-sacrifice. The renunciation of self is to let go of the lower nature. We may now inquire about how these predictions were given by Paracelsus. Although predictions can be made by the aid of astrology alone and their subsequent accomplishment may be deemed marvelous, Yet no one will have a correct foresight unless he sees with the eye of the soul, whereby it comes a true image of things seen in the eternal mind. Concerning this true imagination, Paracelsus says in his Book of Images, cap. 12, therefore, you should also know that the perfect imagination is coming from the astral body, that issues from the soul, wherein all astral bodies lie hidden within, and the soul, faith, and imagination are three things to count, but the names are different, but they have equal force and strength, and one comes from the other, but I cannot compare it other than with the divine Trinity. Because through the soul we come to God, through faith to the Lord, and through the imagination to the divine Spirit. Therefore, there is these three, even as to the divine Trinity, and nothing is impossible. In the time of Paracelsus, it was not safe to know anything beyond the dogmas of the Mother Church. Therefore, we find that most real knowledge became occult or hidden. The predictions were given in signs and symbols, so that they could be interpreted. Then we will let Paracelsus himself give us a few hints. In the same book, cap. V, he explains. When out of magic a prophecy is given by pictures and figures, on a city, country, government, principality or kingdom, then it is indicated by the symbols of animals, arms, and colors which the same city, country, prince, or king carries, that would not be described in plain words. Therefore, everyone who would undertake to interpret such prophecy, should not only be a good astrologer but also a good magus, and should know thoroughly what plant, animal or color each city, country, prince or lord carries in the coat of arms. As an example, the eagle means in magic, the emperor, or only his empire. 3 lilies, or only 1 lily, is the king of France, or the kingdom of France. 3 crowns, one upon the other, or a triple cross, for the pope, or the entire papacy. A crown by itself, is a king or a kingdom. A half moon, is the sultan, or his empire, and so on. France, the papacy, the German Empire, England, Russia, Turkey, etc., appears in the predictions, and many of them have been remarkably fulfilled. The magic Paracelsus speaks of is the occult divine power that rules the destiny of the world, and is the regeneration of the individual soul. And it is also the world soul. I would prefer to call it the ever-presence of the Creator. According to the Kabbalah, every nation has a ruling angel, prince, or lord. It is however also esoterically taught that the archangels are not people but dignities or grades, which the soul must attain before becoming united with the Creator. Then might the whole set of stories and text be esoterically interpreted as the phases of the soul's course towards perfection, and what exoterically treats of the world's course or destiny that may esoterically teach the regeneration of the soul. This interpretation could be taken for each and all of the 32 figures in the stories. It was a common practice for medieval occultists to write about one subject, teaching all the while about another subject. Such policy was, in those times, necessary. Even as a treatise on the occult, and maybe these predictions will be found of interest to those who are mystically inclined. The 32nd story is profoundly mystical. Blessed is he that is born during sleep, that refers to the divine rebirth, that is the birth of cosmic consciousness. Although the stories and symbols openly refer to the world, but secretly they may speak of the world in man. Manifestly the regeneration of the world is treated, occultly, by the divine rebirth in man that may be a choice. The power that is at work in the one is in the same in the other, that is mystic magic, that is the divine Christ Spirit. According to Hebrew tradition, the incarnations of the Messiah educate mankind for perfection, while Christian mystics maintain that the world is under the guardianship of Christ. In the occult art of regeneration, it is the same divine Spirit that teaches and guides the soul in its course towards the end that is called nirvana and is the divine rebirth. It is a peculiarity of true occult books that they dare looking into beneath the deep surface meaning, and the more their occult meaning is studied, the more it will become manifest and seen in the student. The Smaragdine Tablet of Hermes, the 12 Keys of Basil Valentine, and the Amphitheatre of Kunrat that are considered to teach simultaneously alchemy, magic, and the Kabbalah. These three are said to be not three arts, but one art relating to the body, spirit and soul of our being. Eliphas Levi's preface to the predictions in the Key to the Great Mysteries, mentioned in the introductory remarks, Eliphas Levi gives the preface to the predictions of Dr. Theophrastus Paracelsus, of which the following is a translation. Socrates, discoursing one day upon the too curious research of celestial things, during which one forgets the realities of human life, and of the earth that lies at our feet, he exclaims that which is above our comprehension does not exist for us, me wishing thereby to say that a timorous and superstitious consideration of the heavens is vain, useless, and dangerous. It may be indeed that a wise man was warned by his reason of peril, who may be deterred from such study. Elsewhere Socrates, in the dialogues of Plato, and everywhere there are praises, moderation, and balance in all things. It is the words of this great philosopher who should be understood, because there is no reason to suppose that he would calculate astrology, him being himself, according to the testimony of Plato, an excellent astrologer. I will not essay an apology here for a science honored by many learned men. I will only say one word, that there is not another art that can so justly be called divine in its source, in its tradition, and in its theory. Read Moses, he will tell you why God has placed the sun in the firmament, the moon, and the stars to be for signs and for seasons, and for days and for years, which inspires St. Paul to praise those wise men of the world who have found and known invisible things of their invisible Creator. It is true that he continues to blame them for not having honored him more than the creature. God wills, in fact, that we should be attentive to the law of the elements, in order to elevate ourselves from the work to its author, and most important of all is we get to know and adore him. Then all appearances and all material forms are only marks and veils that allow the most intimate secrets of nature to be divined beneath them. Then those magnificent sciences were invented, or were those marvelous arts born, that make us discover in roots, in stones, and even in men's powers that are hidden to the vulgar but is revealed only to the wisdom of those sages named by Hesiod and by Homer, who were just or mortal men, and meropes, or great seekers. All the while let us not attribute too much to human intelligence. It is a divine wisdom descending from the Father of light, according to the text of St. James. God has given us characters forming letters, and he has attached to them all of the feelings of the soul. Through them we can speak, because through them is as through speaking through a divine instrument, because he transmits to us and teaches us every day the secrets of all of the sciences. God having then adapted to the wonders of creation and to the use of man, who has established from the beginning a school of initiation for that wisdom, which all may not comprehend. There we learn with care the things hidden from the multitude. Then the fisherman draws his net from the depths of the sea that is filled with fish that he never saw. The miner brings forth masses of gold and silver from the depths of the earth where the eye cannot penetrate. In this way in the school of nature God teaches us and places before our eyes things altogether unknown. Then there is nothing hidden that will not become revealed and be placed in the light, be it in the firmament of the heavens, be it in the sea, be it in the earth, because all must be brought forth to the light of the day by those great seekers of whom I have spoken of. Meanwhile these celebrated men by their science cause their immortal names to pass from mouth to mouth, for they have in a manner cleared up nature, and their memory should never become extinct. The inspiration is to never surrender her inheritance of glory to death. It is by genius that we live, and all of the rest belongs to death. In the same way, according to our powers and the gift of foresight, but we have desired to glean after those noble harvesters and have explained to the world the threatening things of nature and of the stars, that is for a period to come, which is to the last 40 or 400 years, in order that men may find themselves informed, and learning to love God through a relationship with him, and this will prepare them for the future chastisement of great crimes against him. It is impossible to express up to what point all flesh has corrupted its way. Because anarchy is everywhere. Heaven and earth are confused, and if were not for God shortening the days of his wrath no flesh would be saved. The disorderly life of the men of my time is what made me determined to carefully study the stars. In the Bible, the number 400 often signifies the end of a period of bondage, such as the 400 years in Egypt for the descendants of Abraham. Now there are signs in the sun, the moon and the stars that announce the speedy coming of the judgment of God. The axe is at the foot of the tree, blood flows upon blood, and as the prophet says, no one among men disturbs himself about the things of God, because there is not one who seeks him. But the prophets and evangelists have at present the mission to recall us to compassion, harmony, and unity. And the unity is in the divine triad, and the divine triad is summarized in unity. It is in this way that in human society, unity, peace, and tranquility should rise. When unity is broken, by plurality of power that is immediately engendered and then discord and war. There are as many opinions as there are heads, each one would make his own triumphant end. Then there is no more harmony possible, but in unity there is rest with an abundance of peace. Oh, how well and pleasant it is for brothers to live in unity! Exclaims the prophet, David. Because unity is the happiness of all creatures. The heavens have only one law of motion and harmony, and the earth has only one law to produce love that gives her fruit in season. All obey unity, except Satan and man. Man, however, is sufficiently warned by the signs of heaven, by the sun, the moon and the stars. But what do these announce? He is too menaced with a sudden and quickly approaching end. Happy is he that sits not in the chair of pestilence and walks not in the counsel of scorners. The coming of God is at hand. The arm of the avenger falls on us, and everyone feels the misfortunes coming which he cannot avoid. Who will then struggle against God? No one kicks against the ones with immunity. The God of hosts is the strong God, and the jealous God, who visits the iniquities of the fathers upon the children to the fourth and fifth generation. Oppose God, what folly! Foolishness, you are hardly the Titans who would dethrone Jupiter, who were themselves overthrown by his thunder. Now it is time to show men their madness, and this is what we propose to do by 32 stories with symbols that is intelligible but only to a small number of the elect. We have seen the complete iniquity of the people of Gomorrah, by trying to carry their blasphemies to the heavens, but when things are pushed to extremes, the overbent bow breaks, and men are driven by a fatal law to a contrary extremity, whereby its motion relaxes and the balance is established. Then by perpetrating crime after crime corruption will exhaust itself, and then they will become sad themselves. Behold, the salvation of the multitude is coming, and redemption will overcome the kingdom of evil. Who would not be impatient to see the days where unity will be given to us, and when we will be able to live in peace under only one shepherd? Then no more troubles, no more injustice, the healing balm will descend on the venerable beard of the high priest, then the blessings, light, and gratitude to heaven will spread through the children of unity. Pride having made itself hateful even in heaven, but the faithful angels did not weep at the fall of Lucifer, they affirmed the divine sentence. Let us therefore not grieve if God now opens his hell under the feet of the haughty. Let us rather rejoice, for the judgment has commenced in the house of God itself, and it will therefore extend upon every kind of unjust pride there is. Our prediction has hardly any other aim than to reveal, as we have said, the threatenings of heaven against the arrogant heads of the people. God desires to finally deliver and avenge his oppressed children himself, because he wishes to cast down the powerful and to lift up the humble. But it is not yet there that the pains begin. The greatness of evil has not yet revealed itself, but it will reveal itself, and with it a force that will become manifested and seen that will prevent the just and righteous people from being seduced and drawn into the ruin of the evil perverse people. We say that no one will be named in our prophecy because God knows those whom he has resolved to chastise, because men do not know him, but they will soon feel that justice that has overtaken them, and then we with our human understanding can seek the divine, but all is concealed and nevertheless revealed to us, because it is all God's choice to reveal what he chooses to reveal. The Kabbalah is always veiled, and never pronounces oracles without mysteries, and we are assured that it is of her that we received astrology. God blinds the eyes and hardens the hearts of those whom he has delivered to his vengeance, because he no longer wishes to save them. In concluding this preface, I pray that all of those who will read these articles are able to interpret my words in simplicity, and to not seek after the personalities under my set of values that are in the book. Let them keep their minds free from all thoughts of hate, fear or envy. The event will strike injustice, and then those who already know, will know and recognize what is happening to them. I know many others who have worked in the same direction, and I do not despise either their knowledge or their efforts, on the contrary I encourage them. I see death flying over many monastic institutions, but if men would be wise and would return to God, because he is merciful and good and allows himself to be moved by the persistence of prayers. And we do not attribute a fatal power to the stars, because they motivate us by their influence, but if the Master wills it, he alone can alter the direction and change all. Joshua prayed and the sun stood still to allow him to accomplish his victory. Hezekiah prayed and the shadow lingered on the sundial. Elijah prayed and the heavens closed. The continual prayer of the righteous is all-powerful. These are those who would avert the threatened danger, but they only have to repent, to pray, to live wisely and soberly. Then God our Father will give us his grace by the Lord, who is within, and by God's Holy Spirit. Amen. This preface is imbued with the spirit of Paracelsus but differs from the preface in the German edition of the predictions that is given in the following section. Strasbourg edition of the preface to the predictions. This is the preface to the predictions in the Strasbourg edition of Paracelsus's Collected Works, Volume 2. Paracelsus says 1. People might ask if we can truly describe what the stars do, but since we don't even see what's happening right here on earth and often tripping over what is at our feet. So, knowing about the heavens seems impossible, but the reason is because we don't use our eyes or feet for this. 2. Also, this advice can be given by God, but He wants us to gain experience with all He has made, and to learn nature's secrets so we will know everything completely. 3. This is how many great skills were found, which is too many to list. 4. Since God wants us to know these things, only He can teach them to us, because this kind of knowledge doesn't come from people. Who can explain how letters were first thought up? Then we can only know this through God's inspiration, because He wants us to have this knowledge, and that's why people need to learn it. 5. Just as God created His amazing works so that people would be able to get to know Him through nature, He also created a school where we learn this knowledge, but this school isn't visible or known to everyone. 6. The fisherman pulls fish he's never seen from deep underwater, and the miner brings gold from the earth's depths, where he can't see through. This is because God taught them in this way. 7. Since nothing is so hidden that it can't be revealed, then these things must become known. Whether in the sky, the sea, or the earth, all things must be shown, and they are shown through man, who discovers everything. 8. Who will now point out the very first teacher? But he didn't come from Adam, he came from God. Instead, he acts within man, and through him, and everything inside of him becomes visible in what he creates. And he is the one who teaches what he learns. 9. To describe the terrible things of this world he will go through it, and in the next 24 years he is sad enough, because people have become so greedy and mistaken that they haven't realized their lives will be shorter because of it, because they have completely surrendered and have forgotten God, who is their master, and they are not living by His laws. To understand this, we need to look at the mysteries shown by the signs of the sun, the moon, and the stars. We should also think about how people on earth make each other miserable, with no one allowing his neighbor to even enjoy the sunshine. 10. There is only one number we should live by on earth, which is 1, and we shouldn't count any higher. In God, there are 3, but the 3 are 1. 11. Therefore, we people, just as God changes Himself into 1, then we should also give up our separate ways on earth and become 1. 12. In that number 1 and no other, is where peace and unity are found. 13. Anything more than this is full of trouble and fighting between people. 14. Because if a person uses a number and counts more than 1, how many mistakes result from the beginning to the end? This is the cause of all of the awful pain and is the worm that destroys us. 15. How nice and good it is when we follow the 1. The sky also moves according to that number, the earth and everything else is included in it. But when that is not the case, then the sun, moon, and stars appear as signs that we must think about. 16. The end isn't here yet, even though there are signs of it, but the disaster is just starting. 17. Lucky is the person who doesn't sit with those who bring sickness and who doesn't spend time with sinners, because they will be punished. 18. Every person who acts against God knows deep down inside himself that he won't beat or overcome Him. 19. It's hard to fight Him, and no one can defeat Him. So, it's very foolish for a person to struggle against what is impossible to win against. 20. Then there are 32 stories with symbols of what is going to happen. May they not fall too soon and be too high to reach, but hopefully they will fall at just the right time that they are meant for. 21. They are brought forth in a humble way, but they lead to a lot of suffering. And they will twist and turn like a snake until the end comes. 22. But who would be sad about this, since salvation comes from all arrogance and pride that is getting closer? 23. Who wouldn't be happy that the 1 will again be the leader, and everyone will live together within the 1? 24. How peaceful it will be when there's no need for counting and numbers. 25. Then the special oil will be poured out on Aaron's beard and will bring blessings from above. Then we will know the blessings are coming from God. 26. Just as no one cried in heaven when Lucifer was thrown into hell, why should we worry if pride falls in the same way? So that only one God will be in charge, instead of a lot of people in charge disagreeing and making mistakes. 27. These changes in the world have been predicted for many years, but the signs only showed the beginning. But the end hasn't started yet, only the beginning. 28. But the time for the nations to end is now near. And also, this breakdown must happen, so the good people aren't led astray. 29. I don't know who God will accept, but the prediction is written without focusing on any of them. 30. Others may see this better than I do and understand who it's talking about. 31. This is what the Kabbalah has given, as a mother and the start of astronomy. 32. The way things happen is so hidden even though they are right in front of us, and yet we only know about them once they have already happened. 33. Because everyone should know that it is not God's desire that people do not change their ways and that they are not being saved from their fate. 34. Therefore, things are seen with seeing eyes, and yet people don't truly see them. 35. Let no one suspect anyone else, but let the end bring all things to light. 36. Many people speak and write, and each are doing their best. But I won't ignore what others have also created in this way, because there are a lot of these signs that come before such a powerful rule is dissolved. Dixie equals 509 from Roman numerals Dic 6. The original prophecy or prediction is the first paragraph with quotation marks that has been updated to be more understandable. The second paragraph is an AI summary of the core ideas. I have modernized the book and added charts of the symbols and other information to it to make it more understandable, but I kept the original work intact, by K. Strong. The serpent and the millstone, what a thing is internally is shown by its outward sign. As nature marks her own, so does God. You have been marked as a devourer of all who have anything to do with you. Blessed is he that is unsoiled by you, because you leave none in peace. God has considered you well and has given you your due, but as your beauty is only looked at but is not the signs, therefore you devour all that touch you. For beauty and not goodness is sought of you. A thing's inner nature is shown by its outer look. Just as nature marks her own, so does God's power mark his own. You have been marked as someone who destroys everyone involved with you. Lucky is the person who stays clean and away from you, because you don't let anyone rest. God has judged you fairly and has given you what you deserve. But since people only see your beauty and not your bad marks, you ruin everyone who gets close to you. This is because people look for beauty, not goodness, in you. The lily flower, a flower grows to the destined height. He that causes her to grow also causes her to fade. This happens to you, because God has with it adorned you, so that your coming up should be known, and also so they would see how you have come to nothing. Because before you was with God, who has known you and therefore has compared you to a flower, that today is in bloom but tomorrow it is withered. Wisdom and the love of God would have preserved you, but you have overlooked it, and your own wisdom has seduced you. A flower gets bigger until it reaches its full size. The power that makes it grow also makes it die. This is happening to you. God has made you look special to so many people who would see your success and also to see how you have failed. God knew about you even before you existed. That's why he compared you to a flower that is blooming today but will be dead tomorrow. Good judgment and respecting God would have kept you safe. But you ignored them, and your own smartness fooled you. The 12 spears. You have been sitting in good peace, but you have not known it and have allowed yourself to be moved. Your willfulness has overturned and divided you, and no longer will you have your former glory. Therefore, you are humbled and have again become what you was formerly. You should have been of aid and of use to the whole world, and should have set at rest others as well as yourself, but you have been seduced by what was rejected by your forefathers. Although you would repent, but no one will rejoice through you. You were living peacefully but didn't realize it. Instead, you let yourself be disturbed. Your stubbornness destroyed you and split you up. You will never get back to your old importance. Because of this, you were brought low and are back where you began. You should have helped the whole world and brought calmness to others and yourself. But you were fooled by things your ancestors had refused. Even though you will feel sorry, you won't make anyone happy. The divided cross. You have divided duty into left and right, as if it were oppressing you. Both sides will cause you anxiety, and hatred will altogether overcome you. For a harlot divides her recklessness, and for a while she has her way, but woe to her when her deceit is discovered. Then comes true the saying, there is no love without pain. Although you did mightily rejoice that you are without a head, then a head will be placed on you and you will become a limb to be used, although you are not accustomed to it. But against your will you will swallow and eat what is not your natural food. You have split your responsibilities into two opposing sides, acting as if the work was too much for you. Both sides will cause you worry, and hatred will completely take over you. This is like a promiscuous person who divides her bad behavior and succeeds for a time. But trouble will come when her lies are discovered. Then the saying, "There is no pleasure without suffering," will come true. Even though you greatly enjoyed being free from leadership, now a leader will be put over you. You will become a follower, even though you don't like it. Against your wishes, you will have to accept and use things that are unnatural for you. The millstone falling on a rock. You have not had the wisdom of your crown, but you have turned against the way of the crown and have done a lot of evil. A stone will fall on you that will press you hard against your will. Because you have shed innocent blood and was unwilling to know what you should have known and what belongs to a crown. He whom you have despised will visit you from the south and from the east, where you can't count 2 or 3, and having recourse to your allies will not avail you, for they themselves will fall. You lack the wisdom that should have come with your high rank. Instead, you turned away from what that rank demands and did a lot of harm. A heavy burden will fall upon you and will force you down against your wishes. This is because you killed innocent people. You refused to learn what you needed to know and what belongs to your position versus the crown. The person you look down on will attack you from the south and the east very quickly. Asking your friends for help won't save you, because they will also fail. Laurel branch on a rock. Your flavor is strong, but it is not wholesome and pleasant to everyone. Therefore, your enemies, to whom you are not wholesome to, will cast a shadow and dry you up, so that you may become temperate, and so that your fruit may not grow from you as you now vainly imagine it will. For you would have to give way to one whom you do not know. At the beginning you was very bold, and as a hero you have uplifted yourself. But your undertaking has divided your comrades, and what is divided has no permanence. Still, you would retain a praise and a victory, for you have known yourself. Your taste is strong, but it does not heal you, and it is not pleasing to everyone. Therefore, your enemies, who find you unhealthy, will block your light and dry you out. They do this so you will become unbalanced, and so your plans won't succeed, as you now wrongly believe they will. This is because you will have to yield to someone you don't know. In the beginning, you were very brave and acted like a hero. But your actions divided your friends, and anything that is split won't last. However, you will still earn praise and a kind of victory, because you understood yourself. Bishops surrounded by spears. Because from time to time you have been self-willed, but you are predestined to be surrounded by much adversity. For you have not considered for yourself how you are prefigured magically under the symbol of a stone, as both fat and lean. You do not know it, and therefore you fall beneath the punishment that has broken up all empires. Had your pretended wisdom and understanding been your own, you would have been beyond disaster, and moreover other empires would have taken you as a mirror. But it is not so, therefore your wisdom proves to be a folly at this time. Because you have been stubborn many times, you are fated to face great difficulties. You didn't think about how you are magically represented by a stone that is both strong and weak. But you don't realize this, so you are suffering the punishment that has ruined all great nations. If your claimed wisdom and understanding were truly yours, you would have avoided disaster. Also, other nations would have looked up to you. But this is not true, so your wisdom is proving to be foolish right now. The sword and the crown. Who is he that knows on whom the sun shines, or to whom it will give? What man by himself can in no wise take? Therefore, because it is in the hand of God and he gives it to whom he wills, then it follows that man's resistance is in vain. For the hour has come that you would cease to be, notwithstanding your strength, your allies, your power. For all you have established will fall with you, because you would delude yourself and others to your own pity. Who knows whom the sun blesses, or to whom it will give things that a person cannot take on their own? Because this is in God's hands, and he gives to whomever he chooses, it means people cannot fight against it. The time has come for you to end, even with your strength, your friends, and your power. Everything you built will fall with you. You will deceive yourself and others to gain pity for yourself. A bound lion. Although God has ordained that people should fear and be in terror of you, yet there is a rod awaiting you, and at that time will strike your back in such a way that you would not be able to endure it, and they will say with amazement, who would have thought that he would then be brought to silence? And it would have well become you to observe moderation, But it is not as it is now made to be seen, and it too appears to be what you are not, but you need to consider the end. And this will make you lame and crooked, so you and your followers will cause each other pain grief. Even though God has ordered that people be afraid of you, there is a punishment waiting. At the right time, it will strike your back so hard that you won't be able to handle it. People will be shocked and say, who would have thought he would be silenced like this? It would have been better for you to act with restraint. You should not have pretended to be something you are not, as is now clear. Instead, you should have thought about the end. This punishment will cripple and bend you. And you and your followers will cry out to each other in pain. A monk in a stream. Yours is not a wedding garment, because God has opened your heart, and had made you known. Therefore, even as gold and silver must be refined from being blemished, purified, and tested, but the soul is even tested 7 times more severely than gold and silver because it is cleansed of its dross by fire, then you must be tried in the fire. And it would be well for you to consider within yourself what your beginning was, when your neighbors brought you up, and showed more kindness to you than was due to you, whereas you have presumed this is demanded of you. But your temporary wealth belonged to another. Your clothing is not fit for a wedding. God has opened your heart and made you known. Therefore, you must be tested. You will be purified much more harshly than gold and silver are cleaned by fire. You should think about how you began. When your neighbors raised you and were kinder to you than you deserved, but you took advantage of them. This is now required of you. Your temporary riches belong to someone else. A bear sucking its paw. Although the sun did once shine on you, but you have gluttoned yourself with food and plunder, and was sitting among the honeycombs, yet you have not wisely considered the end of your life, and you have surrendered to laziness and have forgotten the winter. Therefore, he takes away your pleasure and will compel you to suck your own paws. Because you are like a bear, and you have no more reason, so God has driven you into the toils and troubles that should already be known to you by experience. But if the wisdom of man had been yours, the winter would not have overtaken you. The sun did shine on you, but you stuffed yourself with food and stolen goods. You were sitting among riches, but you didn't think wisely about the end, and you surrendered and gripped about the hard times. Therefore, God takes away your enjoyment and will force you to suffer. Because you are like a bear that does not have reason and you don't think ahead, now God has driven you into a trap so that your true nature will be known. But if you had used human wisdom, the hard times would not have caught up to you. St. Peter's chair is upside down. Although one may seat himself securely, yet there is no chair that is secure that may not fall, and also, he that sits on there may fall. And you sit yourself upon this chair, but you should not be on there. You should be below and not above. Because you are a burden and an unbearable yoke, therefore St. Peter falls. You have seated yourself on there, but he has paid the price for you and has given you the reward you were seeking, temporal honor and praise, and these you have gathered all together within yourself and have swallowed them up. Therefore, as a temporal thing you must also pass away. Even if a person sits safely, there is no chair that is truly stable, and the person sitting there can also fall. You are sitting on this high seat, but you don't belong there. You should be low down, not in charge. You are a heavy, unbearable weight, which is why St. Peter is falling. You took the position, but he paid the price for you and gave you the reward you wanted, temporary fame and praise. And you took all of these for yourself and used them up. Therefore, because you are a temporary thing, you must also disappear. Swordmen striking the land. Too much kindness gives too much evil, but when the evil despises the kindness and the folly of it allows it to advance in its undertaking. But it advances in the wrong way, and it will happen just as the grass that is fully grown, that is mowed off and taken to the burn pile where it should be. But if you had been careful, and had considered the end, you would have seen your misery, and you would have known yourself. Know then, not as you will it, but now you will take its reward and its end, as you have been seeking it, and now your wisdom will come to you as a mockery. Too much kindness causes too much trouble when the bad person hates the kindness. Their foolishness allows them to move forward with their plan, but the plan moves in the wrong direction. It will end like fully grown grass, that is cut down and taken to be burned where it belongs. If you had been wise and looked ahead, you would have saw your suffering and would have understood yourself. Since you want this end, you will get your reward and your final result just as you sought for it. But your intelligence will seem like a joke to you. The charter is torn up over the city. Giving too much out of hand brings sorrow and want to the giver, because if it fails to make the other glad, the giver will be beaten with his own weapons. Therefore, as such, from giving too much away it has made you proud, and your pride will have a time and term where it goes this far and no farther. Then you will be all torn up, and you must have nothing more. But if you had considered that no one should set himself against the poor, and you had also recognized your liberty to be against your neighbor, then you would have abstained from there. But your own heart has seduced you, and your wisdom has been reasoned openly and is seen as a folly. Giving too much away causes pain and a need for the giver. But if the gift fails, the giver will be hurt by their own actions. Because this excessive giving made you too proud, and your pride will have a limit and an end. Then everything will be destroyed, and you will lose it all. But if you had thought about how no one should oppose the needy, and if you had also known that your freedom hurt your neighbor, you would have stopped. But your own feelings tricked you, and your intelligence was publicly seen as foolishness. The millstone falling on a triple crown. Nothing is so good that it may not also become evil if it ever is without a thinking head. To be without a head gives pride, and that brings no good. Therefore, a head will be placed on you so that you will become a limb, and it will press heavy on you, so that you will have to carry the head with the other limbs. It is high enough, but it would be higher if you only understood it. Then you would encounter those whom you have not expected, but your great counsel will cause confusion, and when you sleep the union will take place. Nothing is so good that it can't become bad if it lacks a leader. Being without a leader creates arrogance, and that does nothing helpful. Therefore, a leader will be put over you so you will become a follower. This leader will be a heavy weight on you, and you will have to support the leader along with the other followers. The pressure is already high, but it would be worse if you truly understood it. You will meet people that you didn't expect, and your main group will cause disorder. But while you are resting, a joining of forces will happen. Torn papers. A child that goes to school and learns, but when it arrives at the years of discretion it is ashamed of its childish work and destroys it. And this will also happen to you? As you write in such a manner, your own work will be nothing. And for this reason, there will be a lot of labor for nothing, because it will all be in vain. But time teaches and gives knowledge, and not every pearl is a true pearl that is alleged to be one. Therefore, a hand will fall on you that will tear you to shreds. A child goes to school to learn, and when that child grows up, they are ashamed of their childhood work, and they get rid of it. This same thing will happen to you. Because of how you write, your own work will be worthless. This means there will be much hard work that is useless and wasteful. Time teaches and brings the knowledge, but not every pearl claimed to be real is actually real. Therefore, a force will strike you that will tear you completely apart. The stone mason. He who builds a house should guard it, so that when the enemy comes it may not be destroyed. Its destruction should also be guarded so that it may not be rebuilt, and that the folly of both may not be laughed at. Then what has been broken up is again rebuilt. Such things are done by the children of men who do not consider the end. They erect a house, then ornament and decorate it, forgetting that their work is subject to destruction and again to restoration. At present all is still fragile, moreover they do not build on a rock but on the sand. Anyone who builds a house should protect it, so it won't be destroyed when the enemy arrives. You should also prevent its rebuilding after it's destroyed, so people don't laugh at the foolishness of both acts. This is why what was broken is being rebuilt. People do this because they don't think about the outcome. They build, furnish, and decorate, forgetting that their work can be destroyed and then built again. Right now, everything is weak. Also, they are not built on rock but on sand. This is not just talking about a house, because it is talking about our body that we are supposed to be building into a temple of goodness through a relationship with God. The storms blast. The eagle does not grow out of you. Therefore, God will send a wind to you that will repress you and your young. All of it may go well with you, and then you will say to yourself, my soul, you have all that you desire and wish for, then what is it that may not be there of yours? You are sitting in paradise. While you are thinking it is with you, and you are thinking that there is nothing contrary in your greatest counsels and rejoicings. But then the deluge will burst in on you, and the rough south wind will blow you away, as dust off the earth. Because it is not in pleasure or wealth that we are created in. But we are created in the vale of tears. This is what you have surrendered to, and you have forgotten God. The eagle is not born from you. Therefore, God will send a strong wind that will hold you and your children down. Things may be going well for you now, and you may be able to tell yourself, my soul, you have everything you want. Nothing is beyond your reach. And you feel like you are sitting in heaven. But while you are thinking about this and nothing seems wrong, a great flood will break out against you. The harsh south wind will blow you away like dust from the ground. We are not made for pleasure and riches, but for a life of suffering that will change us for the better. This is what you have surrendered, and you have forgotten God. The dead stag. You are leaping about in your garden and are well pleased with yourself, but in giving up your wisdom and following your pleasure you make bad use of your actions. Therefore, it will happen to you even as you are lying there, and those that should be your friends will hunt you and force you to leap high. But take thought within yourself and consider that human things are vain. But would you choose to become altogether changed, and then you would be safe from the misfortune that you walk into daily that you do. But think within yourself how pride and ill manners never end while you are jumping around in your garden and are happy with yourself. But by giving up your good judgment and following your desires, you are misusing your actions. Because of this, it will happen to you while you are resting there. The people who should protect you will hunt you down and force you to flee. But you should think deeply and realize that human goals are meaningless. Then you would completely change and would be safe from the bad luck you walk into every day. Remember that pride and bad manners never end well. The cross inverted. A thing stands upright as long as it can be upheld, but when man alone lifts it up without God, then in its time that the highest will become the lowest. But in this way man will set his wisdom against the earth and will bury it in there, because that is where it has come from, and later it will give way to another. Because human wisdom may last for a time, but she is compared to a flower in the field, that is lovely and pleasing in herself. But the flower does not remain, much less human wisdom. It is said time brings roses, but these also fade. Then it will happen to you, because you are of yourself and are not of God. Because goodness and truth only come from God. A thing stays standing as long as it can be supported. But when only humans are holding it up, the highest will eventually fall to the lowest point. In this way, people will turn their intelligence back to the ground and bury it where it came from. Then it will give way to a new kind of wisdom. Human smartness can only last for a while. It is like a flower in a field that is beautiful and pleasant. But the flower doesn't last, and human wisdom lasts even less. People say time brings roses, but roses also die. And this is what will happen to you, because you rely only on yourself. Drowning Turk. When rest will come to him in death, and when your watchers will be dispersed, and your limehound will be wearied and will succumb to tiredness, then you will be afflicted in your own nest, with your young, and then you will be forced to give way to him, of whom you had supposed that he would give way to you, and then you would have to leave your eggs and nest. Then what will happen to you? Then you and yours will be ensnared together in the meshes that you have laid for others, and never again would you be what you was formerly. And the children that were yours will no longer be yours. And your robe will clothe your enemy, who will despise you. When your enemy gets his peace, and your guards are scattered, and your best hunter is tired and defeated, then trouble will strike you in your own home, along with your children. You will be forced to surrender to the person you thought would surrender to you. But you will have to leave your children and your home. This is what will happen to you. You and your people will be caught together in the traps you set for others. You will never be what you once were. The children who were yours will no longer be yours. Your own clothes will dress your enemy, who will look down on you. The monk and knight struck down. Although you have not wholly revealed your heart, yet there is nothing in time that will remain secret and not be revealed. Then you will become known to him that should already know you. Because you did and would presume to overpower the soft in silken and the hard in iron clothing, and was thinking in your counsels, now we may not want what we would have, but who are they that will prevent us? No, truly it will be the soft at first, the iron afterward, but it will cost you your own blood. Did you not think of humility, and not of the kingdom of this world, but how well it would be with you if you had? Even though you have not fully shared your thoughts, nothing will stay hidden forever, because everything will be revealed at the right time. Then the person who needs to know you will understand who you are. You tried to control the weak with smooth words and was strong with force. In your meetings, you were thinking, now we can do whatever we want to. Who can stop us? No, it will be the weak at first, and the strong second. But it will cost you your life. If you had only thought about being humble, and not about earthly power, but your life would have been much better if you had. 3 preachers and a thief. as there are three beings in the Godhead, comprising of only one number. Then men should also become united only in one number. But where this does not come to pass, then is fulfilled the saying, every empire that is divided in itself must pass away. Then no empire passes away unless it is divided against itself. The wisest construction of a house and the confederation of an empire is when they conduct themselves as one and act accordingly, so that the number may never be divided. Because what can be divided is unstable, temporary, and in vain, and it is the same when one disputes with another. But rejoice, because you will eventually become one. There are three parts to God, yet they are only one unit. In the same way, people should unite into just one group. If this does not happen, then the saying comes true, every kingdom that fights divides itself must fall apart. So, no kingdom fails unless it is split internally. The smartest way to build a house or join a kingdom is when they behave as one unit and act that way. This ensures the group is never divided. Anything that can be split up is unstable and useless, and the parts argue with each other. But be happy, because you will eventually become one. A strange prediction. What is it, or what does it help you if you combine together and do not consider that you are contrary in soul and heart? Look only at how you are externally marked by your garments, even so you are also marked internally. Humans should not be like beasts but should be as men, but as you are not so, he will rule you that is above you, of whom stands written, give to him what belongs to him. Because no savage had any reason and is not permanent, because the only reason that remains, which is destined and ordained by God. And this falls in due time, and then your counsels will be destroyed. What is the point of view that you are all banding together for, but what will happen if you don't realize you disagree deep down? Just look at how you are marked on the outside by your clothes, because you are the same on the inside. You should act like people, not like animals. Since you don't act like people, then the being who is above you will rule you. The Bible says about him, give him what is his. No animal-like thinking lasts forever. Only the thinking that God planned and has set down will remain. This wrong thinking will fall at the right time. And in this way, your plan is ruined. A preacher in a coil. A thing must be understood as certain and true in order to be known without any doubt. But for this reason, that finite knowledge has faults and defects in your design, therefore you have been strangled in your own doubts. You have supposed that there is no need for closing with the true seal, but you have thought to be a seal to yourself. But in there you was in error and are not what you was supposed to be. But this will give you a miserable death. For you have lived on in doubt, and others with you have built on sand. They have wept, and you will weep yet more. A thing must be seen as solid and real to be known without any question. But because limited knowledge caused flaws in your plan, you have been trapped by your own uncertainty. You thought there was no need for the true guarantee, but you believed you were the guarantee yourself. But you were wrong and are not who you thought you were. This will cause a painful death for you. This is because you lived your life doubting, and others who followed you built theirs on something weak too. They have cried, but you will cry even harder. F on a rose in a crown. The Sibyl has been mindful of you when she placed the F, right where you are now standing in the rose, because you are ready and time has brought you what you deserve. What does Sibyl say of you that will be accomplished, and then even more will be said of you? The summer that brings roses is that contrary time wherein it all things are divided, which is a good indication that mankind was building on sand. This must pass away, and then you will set it on the rock that many will be astounded by. Because when the time comes, and there will come with it the signs and symbols that also shows the time has come. The prophetess thought of you when she used the letter F. You are standing well in the rose right now. This is because you are ready, and the time has arrived for you. And what the prophetess says about you will happen, and even more will be said later. The summer that brings roses is the troubled time when everything is split up. This shows that people were building on sand, and that this must fall. But you will rebuild it on solid rock, and many people will be shocked by this. When the time finally comes, and it brings with it the reason why that time was needed. The 5 swords. It has been forgotten that many heads rule badly, and also that it should only one ruler, God and no more. And this is the cause that has split them up and have parted ways from each other, and each one is seeking his own opportunity. But as it is not right to seek one's own opportunity, because each should serve the other, and seek to be useful to the other, and leave his own opportunity to God. But indeed, this only seldom happens, and for this reason they will be put down, and then it will go to whom it was destined to be united with. Then he will be most important, and under him they will rejoice, all of those who have been long afflicted and distressed. People have forgotten that a lot of separate leaders rule poorly. They have also forgotten that only one person should lead, not many. This is why they are split up and are separated, especially with each one looking out for their own gain. But it is wrong to seek your own advantage. Everyone should help the others, and try to be useful to them, and they should forget their own needs and leave theirs to God. Since this rarely happens, they will be defeated, and the person who is meant to unite with them, who is God, will take the lead. And under him, the people who have been suffering for a long time will be happy. 5 men in unity. There will be no common voice, therefore it will be in vain that the 5 men consult together. Have care of the future 42, and in a little while before and after he will come and do as he pleases, and bend you like a branch, and gird you in a way that will not please you. Because your counsel is not of him who is sought for, nor of whom you deem it to be from. If you would consider that there is no wisdom at all in man when he throws off the yoke of God, but he would himself be opposed to it and would throw off the yoke and would not think of the heavy reckoning in the day of wrath. There will be no agreement, so the 5 men consulting together will not matter. Be careful around the future 42. He will come a little before or after this time and do whatever he wants. He will force you to obey and control you in a way you won't like. Your current advice does not come from the person who it is desired of or from the person that you think it is. If you think about how people have zero wisdom when they refuse authority, then they would refuse to give up that authority themselves. Instead, they would think about the heavy punishment that will come on Judgment Day. A priest lamb. Then it will come to pass that each one will be led into its own pasture. Because feeding in a strange pasture causes distress, contention, and misery in this world. But as soon as each one comes into its own stall there will be unity. And the mouth becomes depraved, then feeding according to its lust as it pleases the jaws, with all that comes of going into strange pastures. How blessed will be the hour, and the poverty, that will come, and this will ordain each one to its own meadow, not far from the year 1043 AD. So, it will happen that everyone will be led back to their proper place. Eating in the wrong place causes stress, fighting, and sadness in this world. As soon as everyone returns to their own stable, there will be unity. The appetite gets corrupted when people eat what they want and what tastes good to them. All of this comes from going to the wrong places. But at that time they will be truly fortunate, as will the lack of money that arrives. This will order everyone back to their own meadow, which will happen close to the year 1043. Monk, preacher, and mystic. You have often assembled, and have congregated a lot, but the enemy was not with you. Therefore all things you have resolved were to no purpose and in vain. It must be alone that you would surrender your claims that will reflect who you are, and of whom you have learnt from, and what you would do if you were to turn aside, and would acknowledge yourself and others, then you would cease. But as you desire to be what you should not be, and where you sit on the chair of St. Peter, and whereas the same must fall, therefore you may not continue in your plots, because he will turn aside your design, he who is your master. You have gathered many times and have held many meetings. But the true enemy was not there, so everything you planned was useless and for nothing. You must alone give up what you claim is yours. Because you must think about who you really are, who taught you, and what you would do if you changed your path. You should also admit the truth about yourself and others. And if you did all of this, then you would stop your current actions. But you want to be what you should not want to be. You want to sit on the throne of St. Peter, and since that throne must fall, you cannot continue with your evil plans. Because the person who is your master will turn your plan upside down. 4 dancing children. There will be such a total renewal and change that they will be like children again who will know nothing of the cunning and intrigues of the old. This will be when they count LX, or a little less, but not more. This is saying that the number being counted will be 60, or perhaps 59, but definitely not more. Therefore, it is well that we should remember that the time to appear will be a long time according to a man's lifetime, but there is a short time that we should observe and consider it. Then to cause so much to fall and to be overthrown, with such a raging and roaring lion that has been growing so long, because this cannot be done in a moment. But how well it will be for him that will be as a little child, because human knowledge only causes unrest and grief. There will be a total renewal and change so complete that people will be like children. They will know nothing of the tricks and schemes of the past. This will happen around the year 60, or maybe a little before, but not after. Therefore, we should remember that the time seems long by a person's life, but we should see it as a short time. Because it takes a lot of time to cause so much to fall and be defeated, especially a roaring lion that has grown so big for so long. But look at how lucky the person will be who becomes like a little child, because human knowledge only brings worry and sorrow. Old man asleep. You have taken great trouble, therefore it is only right that after your day's work you should have rest and relax. Blessed is he who is born during sleep, because he will know no evil. Because you have been purified with great care and you have endured a lot in your days on earth. But you know that no one has overcome, and that again no one will be there who will be able to awaken you, but your sleep will only be counted as many years as your enemies have counted from their nest. You have made a great effort, so it is fair that you should have peace and rest after your work is done. Lucky is the person who is born during sleep, because he will know no harm. You have cleaned yourself with great care and have suffered much in your life. No one has defeated you, but there will be no one who can wake you up again. This rest will last as long as the time that your enemies have existed since their rise to power. Clarification of the predictions and the conclusion of Dr. Paracelsus. These predictions are the final thoughts of Dr. Paracelsus that appeared in the Strasbourg collection of his writings. The predictions of Paracelsus 1. The symbolic predictions, as mentioned before, are math and they will fully happen in over 42 years, or perhaps 420 years. 2. I would need a larger book to fully describe just the smallest part of them, but I cannot in the small book that contains them all. 3. If we fully described all of these symbolic figures with their complete meaning, then how much trouble would they show? 4. Like a brittle reed, their confusion and numerous connections will blend together strangely, and will happen in such an unexpected way that it will be hard to believe. 5. Many things are written in a secret or hidden way that is difficult to explain. 6. The second symbol is compared to a lily, but it really should be toads. 7. This is because a toad is the first magic sign given, but it has changed from a toad into a flower. 8. Just as a toad swells up with poison, so does a person who is full of pride. 9. It's not a garden lily, but a lily that grows out of thorns and won't share its scent with anyone. 10. People will suffer hardship and violence. 11. What happens next, if understood and believed, would certainly not be a joke. 12. Because losing your best friends makes a person weak and sad. 13. And also, if a trusted person who is like a child of the house is attacked, we must remember that it will take time, strength, cleverness, and alertness to deal with it. 14. It would be good if we had the time to describe it not just generally, but with every detail, then a lot of trouble would be revealed. 15. The other 4 symbols follow the first one and will also destroy a lot until each one is completed. 16. People will seek a lot of help from outsiders that will create one problem after another. 17. They will build things up, then let them fall back down, break things and build things again, and will search everywhere for protection from the heat. 18. But the 8th symbol will eventually win and succeed. 19. If that didn't happen, it would be impossible for there ever to be peace and rest on earth as long as the world lasts. 20. Then everyone will do exactly what they want and forget why they are on earth, and only declaring I will do this, or I won't do that. 21. A rod needs to be strongly bent, or else it will go back to being straight. 22. But we should remember that nothing crooked can stay that way and must be allowed to return to its straightness. 23. If this didn't happen, you would only very slowly be unbent. 24. This means you wouldn't be able to reach the state you'd happily settle for. 25. The symbol that follows should wisely retreat into itself, and think deeply about itself, then give up its own desires, and sit in sadness and regret, like sitting in ashes and sackcloth. 26. What does this sound like but the city of Nineveh? 27. I wish to God that this prophecy could be stopped by prayer, just as the prophecy of Jonah was. 28. Chewing on your paws represents a meager diet that is not enough, and it hurts to cool after being in the sun. 29. But whatever you choose to do, You must take the consequences yourself. 30. It's a great thing that the Virgin Mary said He removes powerful people from their thrones. 31. Therefore, no one should be surprised when impossible things happen, because they are in God's control. 32. So, the very proud person must become humbled, because the hungry need to be fed, and what shouldn't exist is destroyed. 33. The poor are lucky that they are not abandoned. 34. And the person who relies only on the literal words or the letter is stuck to them, then how can he stop them from being proven wrong? 35. Over time, events have progressed and they seem to have almost reached the height of the Tower of Babel. 36. Just as that tower was suddenly abandoned with the confusion of languages, just as the roof will suddenly fall from above. 37. It is impossible to build any higher than this. 38. And even though a lot is written, no one can defeat this. 39. Therefore, you will be forced to put the stone back where you took it from. 40. And you must let the wind hit you hard because you failed to build a wall against them. 41. Your proud mistakes will only harm you, but not many others. 42. Only the wise person can know the goal that is set, and how a person creates problems that shouldn't exist. 43. Since everything is in God's hands, how can a person use their own strength, which is as weak as a reed? 44. This is where failure comes from. 45. Then the one who secretly paid many people will be defeated. 46. But before this happens, the next symbol will be fulfilled. 47. For if you don't clean your own house, how can you clean someone else's? 48. If a person doesn't wisely handle their own affairs, they certainly can't handle someone else's. 49. Then the rivals will stop fighting, because everything will be settled peacefully and in agreement. 50. Therefore, alliances were made just to cause disagreement and to fulfill selfish desires that must also be broken up. 51. Although God has watched for a long time to see what people would do and how they would use their wisdom, but it doesn't lead to anything lasting or anything certain, even though man convinces himself it does. 52. This must stop. 53. Don't have doubts, because doubt is the enemy of faith. 54. Faith must be solid like a rock and clear. This is as it was in the beginning, otherwise, it won't last and will be harmful. 55. For the Son will enlighten the person who judges himself. 56. And no alliances or restrictions will be strong enough to stop each person from having to do his own assigned work, such as being harnessed to his own plow. 57. And they will appear like children who are innocent and honest. 58. This one has often brought peace and then found peace for himself. 59. But he has been woken up many times. 60. When he wakes up, all living things tremble before him. 61. He is the one who changes things and judges as he sees fit, and he has decided to continue acting for 24 more years until he rests again. 62. To him, this time is just a moment, but to us, he leaves the long, drawn-out duration. 63. He doesn't remove one symbol each year, but completes them all at once, until everything is finished and done. 64. Who can understand, and who is this person supposed to be? 65. But no one should be named or suspected until everything has actually happened. 66. Because that's how it will be. 67. Anyone who reads this prediction should read it with the instruction not to tell anyone else, because no one knows what it means. 68. But once something has happened and come true, everyone can understand it afterward, but by then it's too late to use the information. 69. Many people will think that this prediction doesn't concern them, but maybe it does. 70. Because people usually want to protect themselves but are unwilling to truly know themselves. 71. They always assume the prediction is about the people they envy, or even of the ones that is opposing God. 72. And the one who judges others may himself be judged, and the one who thinks he is perfect may actually be flawed and broken. 73. May God grant a good outcome. Another prediction by Theophrastus Paracelsus. I understand you might not believe me now, but I know that wise people will eventually value my writings, which are currently looked down on. This won't happen until after a great and terrifying solar eclipse is over. I predict that after this eclipse, a huge wave of rebellions, riots, wars, killings, murders, fires, and all bad things will flood into the northern countries. Then the areas of Brabant, Flanders, and Zeeland should be careful, as should those people who, like my Swiss people, should be careful, who eat a lot of cheese. Because the symbol of the lily, likely France, will then be completely weakened, used up, and defeated. In the same way, the eagle, likely the Holy Roman Empire or Austria, will be attacked, shamed, insulted, and looked down on. Othman, likely the Ottoman Empire or Turkey, will be the most powerful, but the eagle will have to bow to him. Good times will follow this period. Food and other necessary things for life will grow well, but the poor people won't get to enjoy much of it. Spiritual matters will grow and become stronger, like the phases of the moon. Next, people from the East will have a great victory for a time and will celebrate the Golden Tower. Even ordinary people without strong leaders will suffer. The high-ranking nobles will be punished as if they were common criminals. The lion, with the colors blue and white on its side, will march in with great pride and power. Beware, your beautiful city, which used to be a point of light and the best part of Europe. The rue wreath, another symbol, will become nothing. Won't a small spark remain from this great fire, not even one that will soon start a new, unstoppable flame? When these events actually happen, no one will value truth, loyalty, or honor. Instead, there will be many supposed truths, loyalties, and honors, but they will be so misleading that they will be seen as having no real faith, truth, loyalty, or honor at all. The white will defeat the black for a time using the help of the black, and they will achieve big things. The pomegranate, another symbol, will burst open, throwing out its seeds and allowing them to die. Then the rue plant or rue wreath will lend its support or natural source to the lily and will act as a shield for her, preventing the wind of health from harming her. The people of the world will then be in chaos, and no family, marriage, or friendship bonds will be respected. The lion will join forces with the fishes. And the crowned royalty will be ruled by the fine hat, ecclesiastical or civil power. Next, the rue wreath will be stained with milk. And the pelican, a symbol of self-sacrifice, will be destroyed by its own young. But the phoenix will be burned up in a fire, and when the dew wets the ashes, it will come back to life, just as it naturally does. This time, it will become a great noble phoenix. It will attack the toad and will make a deal with the lion, by giving the lion a choice. The lion will choose only the best option. This phoenix will put reins on another wild horse and ride it with spurs, but without a saddle. Then, a new group of strange beasts will appear with various odd heads. They will have many mouths and stomachs, but they will all share one way of drinking. The most wicked people will still live in luxury, and their angels will be covered in blood. They will focus only on one goal. Then a pair of horses will appear, and in all these places, the only sound that will be heard is the cries of people running away. The dragon of sleep will make the eagle so tired that it will give up all its grandeur. Then the fountain of life will begin to flow. And a white eagle will turn black. Milk and blood will become less plentiful, and the animal tree will start to grow. An old lion will be captured, and a young lion will be set free. This young lion will please all of the other animals that the old one had troubled. He will do even more, and he will change his mane and hair into silk. The bear will set traps, and the oxhead will try to attack him. The griffin will fly overhead but won't hurt him. Then a valuable pearl, which has been missing for a long time, will be found by a humble person, and it will be set in gold like a jewel. It will be given to the prince of all beasts, which is the rightful lion. He will wear it around his neck with honor. He will fight the bear and the wolf and tear them apart, so the animals in the forest will be safe. Then the old art, likely tradition or wisdom, will succeed, and no attention will be given to the new. Then, the new world will begin, and the white and the black will vanish. All false pride will end, and the feathers of the bird from the east will be burned by the sun of the south. What will happen to you, O lion, you earthly one painted and tied down with gold? Everything you do will change, and the 7 heads will become 1 head. Out of this single head, a new head will be born that has a horn. This horn will crush everything that has brought sadness to Iphinos for so long. And the great city will become the leader of the smaller ones, and it will be freed from being controlled. Europe will be the head, Asia will be the crown, and Africa will be the jewel. Political national symbols. Symbol. Likely meaning, allegorical. Context in prophecy. The lily France. The fleur-de-lis, stylized lily flower, was the primary heraldic symbol of the French monarchy for centuries. Its decay, exhaustion, and being cast down suggests a defeat, revolution, or loss of power for the French crown. The eagle Holy Roman Empire, Habsburgs, Austria. The double-headed eagle was the long-standing symbol of the Holy Roman Emperors. Its being plucked, dishonored, insulted and despised suggests a period of humiliation and weakness for the empire, possibly at the hands of the Ottoman forces. Othman, the Ottoman Empire, Turkey. Othman is a variation of Osman, the founder of the empire. Othman is foremost and the eagle shall cringe before him, pointing to a time of Ottoman military supremacy in Central and Eastern Europe. The lion, the king/monarch of England/Great Britain. 3 lions are on the royal arms, or Spain. The Spanish crown often used the lion of Leon. It generally represents a powerful, regal figure or kingdom. The lion with blue and white associates him with royal colors, suggesting a victorious, powerful ruler who steps into the power vacuum. The later mention of a right lion suggests a legitimate, noble king. Brabant, Flanders, and Zeeland-specific northern European provinces, modern-day Belgium and Netherlands. Mentioned as places that must beware, indicating they will be major locations of conflict or suffering during the predicted upheaval. The crown versus the fine hat. The crown represents secular monarchy, royalty/kings. The fine hat generally represents ecclesiastical or papal authority, the church/pope. The lion and the crown will be subject to the fine hat predicts a time when the church/pope regains political dominance or control over the kings. Abstract natural symbols. Symbol. Likely meaning, allegorical/traditional. Context in prophecy. The rue wreath, regret, repentance, protection, or mercy. The herb rue was historically associated with cleansing, protection against evil, and was a symbol of regret in the language of flowers. Its dwindling to naught suggests the loss of mercy or a protective power. Its later action of standing as a shield to the lily suggests a temporary defensive alliance or act of protection for France, perhaps out of regret. The pelican, a symbol of Christ and self-sacrifice, due to the medieval belief it wounded its own breast to feed its young with blood. It also symbolized parental duty or an established power structure. The pelican being devoured by his young suggests a violent, self-destructive action, like a revolution, revolt, or children turning violently against their parents/established rulers. The phoenix, resurrection, renewal, and the end of a cycle. The mythic bird that dies in fire and rises from the ashes. Its consumption and revival signal a great purging and the rise of a new, noble, and strong order after destruction. The identity of Iphinos. The name Iphinos is extremely obscure and does not appear in major, well-known prophetic traditions, like those of Nostradamus or biblical commentary. This suggests one of a few possibilities. 1. A copyist or translation error. The name might be a corruption, misspelling, or misreading of a more famous name or place in the original text. 2. A highly localized reference. It could refer to a specific, but minor, family, location, or historical figure that was only relevant to the immediate audience of the original writer. 3. A symbolic name/anagram. Given the use of riddles in prophecy, it may be an anagram or symbolic name for a concept, nation, or enemy. Conclusion. Without the original source text or more context, the exact identity of Iphinos remains unknown. It is simply the entity or group that has suffered sorrow for a long time, and whose liberation is symbolized by the armed head/horn that bruises, or that caused the pain. The prophetic timeline and events. The sequence of events and symbols strongly matches the historical anxieties and conflicts of the 16th and 17th century Europe, which was dominated by the clash between major powers. 1. The eclipse and the northern chaos. The eclipse/northern chaos. The great and fearful eclipse often marks a turning point or a sign of doom. The resulting overflow of revolts, riots, wars into the northern countries points to the massive religious and political upheavals of the era, such as the Reformation, the Dutch Revolt, specifically affecting Brabant, Flanders, and Zeeland, and the general chaos leading up to the 30 Years' War. 2. Imperial decline and Ottoman power. Lily decayed, France, This could relate to a period of French weakness, such as the French Wars of Religion in the late 16th century, which weakened the monarchy, Eagle despised, Habsburgs. This refers to the weakening of the Holy Roman Empire's power after the peak of Charles V, and its military struggles against the Ottomans. Othman foremost. This is a clear reference to the peak military strength of the Ottoman Empire in the 16th and 17th centuries, which repeatedly threatened Central Europe, the Eagle, culminating in events like the Siege of Vienna. 3. The Lion and the Great City. The Lion with blue and white. This could refer to a coalition involving a British or Spanish king. The lion, often allied with other European powers, blue and white colors. Beware, you beautiful city. Eye of Europe. This is a classic prophetic trope, likely referring to a major city facing ruin. Common interpretations in similar prophecies include O Paris, capital of the lily/France. O Rome, spiritual center of the fine hat. O Constantinople/Istanbul, the great city lost to the Ottomans. 4. The end of the cycle and renewal. Crown subject to the fine hat. This suggests a brief restoration of strong papal authority over secular rulers, a theme central to Catholic-aligned prophecies. The phoenix. The burning and revival of the phoenix after the chaos symbolizes a major, fundamental renewal of European civilization, and a new cycle beginning after the old system of the lily, eagle, and Othman is destroyed. Europe as the head, Asia as the crown, Africa as the jewel. This is a grand geopolitical vision of a new world order where Europe is the political and strategic leader, with Asia, the East, as its celebrated possession or highest achievement, and Africa providing wealth or spiritual value. Epilogue. These are the famous prophecies of Theophrastus Paracelsus, considered by Eliphas Levi to be the most astounding monument and indisputable proof of the reality and existence of the gift of natural prophecy. The prophecies do not merely relate to events that happened in the age of the Reformation, and do not strictly refer to 24 or 42 years after they were published, but suggest events that happened long after, some that are even now happening, and others that will happen in the future. Nearly 4 centuries have elapsed since these predictions were made. I have neither altered nor suppressed any of them but have only translated from the Old German to the best of my ability. Whatever interpretation may be given to these predictions, their ancient origin cannot be disputed. They were first published about the year 1530 and are still in existence in print of that period. It is true the first editions give no date, and it is uncertain whether the Latin edition preceded the German, as the latter shows more originality of expression. It is by no means improbable that the Latin version referred to by Eliphas Levi may be the only translation. The German edition of 1530, which is also found reprinted in the works of Paracelsus collected by Johann Huser and published at Strasbourg in the year 1616, that was taken as the original for the present translation. The prophecies occur in Volume 2, pages 594,608. The plates have also been reproduced from the old woodcuts of that edition. The original manuscript of Paracelsus is said to be in the court library of the Grand Duke of Baden at Karlsruhe. Interpretation. To interpret a prophecy is more hazardous than to make one, for a prophecy may be vague, but an interpretation is expected to be exact. I will not venture to interpret any of the predictions, but I will only take a chance to suggest the meaning of some of them. Ingenious readers are welcome to interpret each and all of the prophecies in their own way. It may interest those fond of historical research or who are keenly following the course of political events. Religion also plays a large part in the predictions. As history repeats itself, a prediction thought to have been accomplished by a country, person or event, may again be verified by another or similar occurrence. Paracelsus apparently saw the future as a series of projectors of pictures before him, but it is described without chronological sequence. As a whole, the stories and symbols relate either to the church or to the state. By Eliphas Levi.